Hey, what's ready? Welcome back to News Dose. Hope everybody had a great weekend. The conference finals for the NBA is about ready to start up, and we have really a bunch of young and uprising teams this year. I guess the next era is officially here. If you like watching the NBA, let me know who you're rooting for in the comments below. But, of course, we have a lot of gaming news to get into today. We got another update for the Switch 2 and how you can secure one if you still don't have a pre-order in, and we also got more potential information for Xbox's next generation consoles. It's really crazy just how much information has leaked out about their next consoles, but one specific detail seems to be attracting a lot of excitement, and we do have a very interesting update regarding that specific feature. Before we get started, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with Hideo Kojima and what he has planned for the future after Death Stranding 2. He's really ramping up his studio in a way that they have a pipeline of projects for a long time coming. Of course, his horror game, OD, is in development in partnership with Xbox. I think that'll probably be their next release after Death Stranding 2. But then after that, they're also working with Sony on a project codenamed Physant. It's being described as a big AAA action espionage title, so kind of his return to a Metal Gear Solid type of game, which is really, really exciting stuff. But don't necessarily get too excited just yet, because he confirmed that it's going to take another 5 to 6 years to make. So yeah, we're talking about a 2030 to 2031 release. It'll be a PlayStation 6 game, which is really crazy to think about. You know, we're already talking about 2030 games, but I mean, if you think about it, this is going to become a lot more common than what some people might realize. I mean, we talk about it all the time on a channel. AAA games takes 5, 6, 7, or even 8 years to make at times, and that's no longer an outlier. That's the new standard. And it's really one of the main reasons that a lot of these games cost north of $300 million to make. Now, however, I think when you look at how Kojima set up his studio, I think he's doing it in a fairly smart way. For one, he's signing deals with bigger publishers like Xbox and PlayStation to alleviate some of that development cost, especially with these being new IP. And even more so is that he also has multiple games in development rather than just simply relying on one single game. With Death Stranding 2, Physant, and OD, I mean, that's 3 games in possibly a 6-year period, which is actually pretty impressive when you compare to a lot of other AAA studios. Now, speaking of long development cycles, Intergalactic isn't the only Naughty Dog game in development. This comes from Neil Druckmann. In an interview, he mentioned another team within Naughty Dog that he's been watching over and mentoring. He says it's kind of a producer role for him, and I mean, just based on prior information, my first guess is that it'll be a new Uncharted title. There's been a lot of rumors about a new era Uncharted these past few years. This is not the first time we've heard rumors for that. Possibly a new entry with Nathan's daughter as the main protagonist. So kind of a Gears 3 to Gears 4 type of situation, similar to Marcus Phoenix. Nathan Drake could still play a vital role, but he'll no longer necessarily be the main star of the show, but instead it'll be his child, which I think that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, for as much love that I have for the Uncharted franchise, I mean, this is a top 3 franchise for me of all time, but I can't sit here and say that I have zero concerns about a new entry if they do indeed make one. For me personally, and this is really just my own opinion, but I'm not really a huge fan of Neil Druckmann or modern-day Naughty Dog. In a lot of ways, they feel like a completely different studio than what they were when they made the first 4 games. I mean, they used to make games to, be fun, to have characters and stories that you can connect with, just charming characters, and that doesn't really seem to be their mentality under Neil Druckmann. So I don't really look at them as the golden standard like I used to, but even still, they are a very talented studio, and I'm crossing my fingers that whatever this game ends up being, that it'll take me back to the days when I put Naughty Dog on a pedestal. Now, moving on, let's go ahead and get into some Nintendo news, starting off with Switch Online and yet another Xbox Rare partnership. Killer Instinct Gold is now available to Plus expansion pack subscribers, and I'm really happy that Xbox is actually allowing this. Rare to this day is probably one of the most controversial acquisitions within the game industry just because of how much they were previously connected with Nintendo and their fans. In some ways, you can make a very real argument that Rare and Nintendo are what made the Nintendo 64 so special. It wasn't just Nintendo. I mean, of course, they put out a lot of great games, as they typically do, but Rare's pipeline, that generation, was all-time great. With games like GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, Diddy Kong Racing, Jet Force Gemini, Conquer, and the list just goes on and on and on. They had an amazing lineup of games for the Nintendo 64, and yeah, that also included the fighting classic that is Killer Instinct Gold. So for anybody who grew up with the Nintendo 64, you know what Rare means to us 90s Nintendo fans. And truthfully, I hope their Rare relationship doesn't simply end here. If Xbox is smart, what I think they should do, and again, this is just my opinion, but I think they should go out and make a new Banjo game, or a remake of the first two. I mean, you can do either or, but release them as a multi-platform Nintendo Switch 2 and Xbox title. I feel like that would sell a ton of units. I feel like Nintendo fans would buy a game like that in droves. Now, I am expecting Sea of Thieves for Switch 2 in the nearest future. That's another Rare game that seems highly plausible, but regardless, I'm glad to see another Rare Nintendo 64 game for Switch Online subscribers. And speaking of the Switch 2, I do have some great news for anybody who's still looking to secure an order. Now, this might require a little effort on your end, but it sounds like various different retailers will have in-store units in stock for the June 5th launch. Now, GameStop and Best Buy, they've already confirmed that they will participate with in-store units. Now, we've also heard rumors about Walmart possibly doing the same thing, and now you can go ahead and add Target to that list as well. This comes from Jake Randall and Nintendo Prime. Both have been able to corroborate their information with each other, so, at the very least here, this rumor seems highly likely. Now, I'd still like to see some kind of official confirmation from Target. That way, fans can prepare with 100% certainty, but as of today, it sounds like you will have a choice to walk into a multitude of different retailers, whether that be Best Buy, GameStop, Walmart, or Target, and you'll get a chance to buy a Switch 2 in person. Now, if you go into that direction, though, my best recommendation to you is to be at the store in line at least an hour before it opens, if not even earlier than that. I mean, if you want to be extra safe here, I'd say go 3 to 5 hours early. The fact that this information is making the rounds right now, that means that there will likely be a line of people heading up to its launch, and, there's only going to be a limited amount of units in stock. Either which way, though, this is more great news for the Switch 2 launch and anybody who's looking for one. In my opinion, I think Nintendo was actually handling this launch much better than what we saw from Sony and Xbox back during their console launches. I mean, okay, to be fair here, Nintendo was able to watch and learn from their pain, but Nintendo seems to be doing fairly well with pre-orders, whether that be, through the Nintendo Store invites, the online retail pre-orders, or even with these in-person launch units. They are giving people ample opportunity, so hopefully, if you want one, you'll be able to get one. Now, one more thing before we go. We got more confirmation about Xbox's potential next-generation platform, and this has been really a reoccurring topic for, I'd say, a better part of a year now. Rumors really started to pick up late last year, right around November, that the next Xbox will be a PC console hybrid that'll be able to sideload things like Steam, and that's huge if true. I mean, Steam has a massive library of games, which ironically includes PlayStation games. And let me go ahead and address that part before we go any further. Every time I talk about this topic, I always get a few comments that claims that PlayStation will never allow their PC games on an Xbox platform like this. That's not really how this works, though. The entire idea for this next Xbox quote-unquote console is that it's basically going to boot into an Xbox OS, or let's say the Xbox PC app, but it'll essentially be a front end for Windows. So, in other words, it's the exact same idea as the Steam Deck, But instead of the SteamOS and Linux, it'll instead be with the Xbox app and Windows. So as long as its backend is a fully fledged Windows OS, then that means that, yes, it'll be able to run anything that runs on a regular Windows device, which includes PlayStation Steam games. Xbox won't need some kind of special contract to get those games because Sony themselves already did that when they made them for Windows in the first place. So unless Sony stops making games for Windows PCs, which seems highly unlikely, then yes, theoretically, you'll be able to play them on the next Xbox. So that's one of the main reasons that this is such a big deal for console gaming. An easy plug-and-play PC console hybrid that can play Xbox games, Steam games, PlayStation games, Xbox Game Pass games, and even emulation if that's something that you want to do. And now we have yet another rumor that indicates that, yeah, this is their exact plan. This comes from Ecstasis TV, which has accurately leaked different information in the past. Now, he's also gotten some things wrong, so don't necessarily take this as a 100% confirmation. But according to him, Xbox is doing internal tests to add Steam to the Microsoft Store. Now, why would they want to do something like this, though? Well, that comes down to that plug-and-play experience. If they truly want to use Steam as a way to sell their next-generation consoles, then an easy Steam installation could actually help with that. In other words, this indicates that you could boot directly into the next Xbox console, and Steam theoretically could be installed directly to its Xbox OS home screen without even going into the Windows backend. That would be a huge addition that leans directly into the ease of use for consoles that a lot of people do prefer over PC, where you have to tinker a little bit more. So, I mean, we still need to see how well a device like this can actually sell, all while Xbox pushes for, their more multi-platform experience. But, that PC console environment with just all of this compatibility, maybe possibly the most compatible platform on the market, that does seem like an interesting strategy on paper. So let me know what you all think about this in the comments below. Either which way, the reality of Steam plus Xbox seems to be growing by the day. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.